Welcome back to Build Shefa, the podcast where we talk with innovators, investors, and developers who are reshaping the future of real estate and business with purpose and precision. I'm your host, Liat Siegel, and today's guest brings a powerhouse blend of financial acumen, leadership, and strategic execution. With over a decade of experience, Jerry has led over 200 million in real estate investments across hotels, retail, residential, and mixed-use development, from value-add hotel acquisitions to award-winning renovations like the 20 million transformation of the Crowne Plaza Detroit downtown. He's mastered the art of identifying opportunity and turning distressed assets into high-performing, market-aligned properties. What sets him apart isn't just the numbers, though 26% ROI on ground-up construction is no small feat, but his ability to lead teams, communicate clearly, and make smart, data-driven decisions that drive long-term value. In today's episode, we'll talk about how he sees opportunity now, how he balances risk with vision, and what principles he guides his leadership in an ever-shifting market. Let's dive in. So tell me a little bit about your journey, your background, and what brought you to do everything that you do today?
Sure. And going back to the article I just mentioned that for the first time, I published, it talks a bit about that, right? How your history, your past, and your decisions kind of drive who you are and what your DNA looks like, right? At a very young age, I took the treasury department of a family-owned business. My father manufactured bubblegum, and he had just went through a bankruptcy. So when I took over, I was, 19 years old. He was pretty young, and I was putting in the fire with a lot of responsibility and helping him turn this around. And so, I felt like that part of me at that age kind of built me to kind of look for businesses that are distressed and kind of turn them around. And, because that's basically what we did, right? And so I got the opportunity to join a company who bought the hotel in downtown Detroit. So I'm an expat. I was sent here and an immigrant sent by a construction company, a hotel management company that bought a vacant building, foreclosed property in downtown Detroit in 2012. And if I really, for those who know, and for those who doesn't, 3 months after we had bought that property in 2012, the city declared itself bankruptcy, right?
Wow.
And so
going from one bankruptcy to another.
And it was a vacant building, right? But, they had just come out in the news that they were going to renovate the convention center. And so I remember I asked my former boss, are you worried about this? And he said, what do you mean? This is the best time to buy. We just reached bottom, right? And so I was really grateful because once again, I was just 27 at that point, and I was handed the keys to renovate a 400-room hotel in downtown Detroit, right across the convention center. And I didn't know anything about hotels at that point, but I'm really grateful because I had that opportunity that somebody trusted in me, right? At that age, and he's an amazing mentor that I've learned a lot from. He's a huge risk taker, by the way, something that I do admire from him. And we turned this property around. We won the Developer of the Year from IHG, and
that's amazing. That is quite neat.
Yeah, the company did quite well. So we went out there and started buying properties throughout the U.S. And in 2020, I decided to start my own venture. So, I invited friends and family from Mexico to, deploy their capital and diversify in the US. And so we did that we've been doing that for the past 5 years, between hospitality and retail. And at the same time, we started a hotel management company that were managing these hotels. And it's something where I really have my passion in, where you're really tight with building a team and taking the responsibility on the people that's, servicing the guest. And we are growing that company, and that's pretty much where we're at right now, Liat.
Wow. And you also mentioned that you just started your own short-term rental. Tell us about that experience.
being in hotels, I was a bit upset with the brand, with some of the brands that are, putting a lot of pressure on the owners to invest in it, and really something they don't really care about the performance, right, of the property, and I kind of felt that I figured there's gotta be a better way to do this, right, and so I figured that we could build a brand and a portfolio out of short-term rentals. I think, it's growing at such a fast pace, and there's a lack of consistency on the product out there. So we thought, what if we design these great homes, great locations where we can protect the investment and being able to set our standards, right, to the point where we have really good performing homes, and we just start with what we have. We already have the hospitality team in place, right? So we thought, why don't we just tap into that? And so we are just starting that venture. We have our first home being renovated right now, and I think it's coming up. It's coming along really, really nice. I think there's always area of opportunity as you come throughout this way, but we're really excited for what's coming. Mm-hmm.
And what are the things throughout that process that really stood out to you in terms of ROI, in terms of, I guess more so, my question would be, what was the common theme, that common thread throughout your experience with your father and then with the developer and now developing the short-term rental, that's the outcome? Like, what is the outcome that you're wanting guests to feel that you learned from all those experiences?
Let me take a step back there, especially because the article was written in a way that, we have always given the task of turning around these hotels, right? Our management company, I think that's what we do best. Like, nobody gives you a hotel because it's running well. They give you a hotel because it's not performing well, right? And so we've done really, really well on gathering a super talented team of people that are really aligned and focused on making this happen. And we have seen that throughout the way every single time, right? And so most times, or what I see, some of the challenges on this process, it's typically the product, right? The condition of the product, and then the people the location, the product, and the people that manage it, right? So we have all of these key variables. So now let's focus on what the product has to look like for us to be able to turn these failed businesses around, right? So, because there's got to be an investment of that sort. So that's kind of what has shaped the vision of, turning these homes around. Because we are buying distressed homes and just making them for short-term rentals for the sake of doing the right thing for the community, protecting the investor, and then, bringing guests that have a great experience, right? And so those I think that's how things have aligned to this point, where I think we continue learning, because everybody continues learning even through all of this experience, and I think we still have a lot to learn. But then we just keep improving, every day, and just getting better at this, right?
Mm-hmm. So what is that thing, that common thread that the customer, the guest should feel and take away from the experience, do you think?
I think that's something that you will be extremely helpful to answer. That's exactly what I think, your experience and people that have that feeling, that mindset could really drive that value. In my perspective, that's why we partner with people like you, right? To design these homes into a way that it feels like a real experience, right? Like there's something different about these homes. And that's why we kind of want to brand them consistently across the portfolio, because, now that if you ever stay in one of our homes, you have the guarantee that it's going to be, designed properly, the layout's going to be well done, right? You have the amenities that you would expect from any house. It's going to be clean to your standards and so forth. So I think I struggle to walk through that path of the guest, but nonetheless, I have good taste. So if you put it in front of my eyes, I'm sure I'm going to say, well, I would make these changes probably, but it looks phenomenal. Yeah.
Right, right. So what I'm hearing from you throughout your experiences and all your learnings with the developer and the hospitality brands that you're working with now is having a continuous brand presence and guest experience. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's not rocket science into that. If you look back to history and, the best performing brands, that's pretty much what they've done really well, right? That's why they build loyalty programs, and these loyalty programs become so big. One, because they're well incentivized to go back with those points, but two, because they know what to expect. And, these bigger brands have done well on making sure it's designed to that experience, right? And making sure that it's that you just have a good experience as a guest. But I think aligned with that, the product can't be successful without the right team in place to manage that experience, right? So I think that's the key part of that component of being successful. It's the product, but yet the people as well, right? Everything that's behind it to support that experience. Otherwise, you can have the best designed hotel with the best, with the best amenities, but if it's not cleaned well, if it's not, the people are not received well, if it's just a struggle to get there, then it's really worthless, right? So.
Right.
That's why I think there's that mix of that mix of talent that has to happen.
100%. I mean, I think systems and people are very undervalued. I think people understand that to a certain extent, but I think the strategic, having not just a team but a strategic team in place is one of the biggest drivers of ROI. Wouldn't you agree for the success of a brand?
100%, and it goes in all regards, right? Like if you think about just strategic partnerships, right? It comes from design, right? It comes from your brand. It comes from the management team. It comes from even your guests, right? Just still your partners in crime, so they need to visit your property. So by all means, I think. I mean, once again, I feel it's like not rocket science, but it's good to just put it out there that it takes that, right? It takes all that to make this property successful.
Right. We were talking before about the mindset of and drivers of revenue and the whole model, the hospitality model, and that there are investors out there that clearly understand that design and experience is a driver of ROI. Can you speak to also the different mindsets that exist as we were discussing before, and how that impacts the end product?
Absolutely. I think designing with purpose, it's a risk that you take, but if it's done well, it's well regarded, right? And with that said, I think from an investment perspective, when you're developing something or you are coming up with a new product, as an investor, I think you kind of worried if you're going to skew people from getting into the property by being too aggressive with your design, right? Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, if you don't design with purpose, it's likely that you're not going to attract the right demographic and your community of people that you're going to serve, right? So it's a balance that you have to have there, where if you do it right, then you're going to, run pretty high occupancies and pretty high, revenues, where your valuation is going to go through the roof, right? So your ROI is there if you do it right. But it once again, I think we go back to the same thing we mentioned, but it goes back to putting together the right team in place since the beginning, right?
Was there like a specific turning point or challenge in your life that changed the way you see life and business and how you approach your projects today?
There's a couple of that. And the first one was when I had to help my dad at that young age. I think that truly build a bit of resiliency, and if you read the article, it wasn't about rocket science. It's not, it's just being patient, work with grit and with a lot of integrity and transparency. I think, people are willing to help. People are good in their intentions from the bottom, right? But you just got to ask for it. And so I learned at that age of how important that was. At that point, honestly, I was even afraid to talking to, the vendors themselves, right? But I had no option. I was forced to it. And it's something that now that I look back, it kind of allows me to talk to anyone, right? Just being able to continue that path of integrity, transparency that continues to build trust and builds relationship for long term. And two, I think the other part of resiliency is when I started my own business in 2020, we were, raising capital for hotels in the middle of COVID. Right. And so everybody was telling us, we were doing this through Zoom calls, right? So we were raising capital through Zoom calls. Everybody was telling like, guys, don't you see that the hotels are closed? Right. And then, but we took that leap of faith of just resiliency, right? Of just continue to build on what we had envisioned that it was going to come into fruition, which it actually did. Like, we look back in history and we recall what had happened in Spain, with the last pandemic, and we thought, well, all pandemics have shown that things come back, right? So let's keep the vision, and let's continue to build on that. And there was a point in time at 2021, we started raising capital in March, right? Then things stopped for about 4 months until we decided to continue with it. And then we started raising capital back in August of 2020. And by 2021, our first acquisition was in June. And, at that point in time, I was about to give up because my savings had just evaporated through this time, right?
Wow.
And I told my wife, I told her, I think I'm going to have to look for a job. And she's like, no. But she said, well, we moved from Detroit. You move your family from Detroit. This is where you want to live. This is what you want to do. You better give, everything until the end. And God, she was right. I took that leap of faith. So the support that I had from her was key. And that's something that has shaped, I think, me as a person, also as a family, of how important and how key it is to have the right partner, in your life, not only in your professional ventures, but in your life, because, here we are, we made it happen. And, now we have 16 properties that we can look back to.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. Having that support is absolutely vital because, it's in those dark times that you feel like you just want to give up and not move forward. And I think that's what's so beautiful about everything that, is discussed on these podcasts, that it's not just about the rat race. It's not just about making more money. Yes, we talk about ROI. Yes, we talk about increasing revenue, but it's really about the meaning and purpose of what we do, because at the end of the day, we're not taking it with us, right?
Absolutely, right. Absolutely. I think we talked about it last time, but it's, I think money is a reflection of how you serve people, right? It's the consequence, but it's not the goal, right? It's the consequence of doing right for others that you are then retributed for that. So I fully agree with it, Liat. 100%.
So in terms of that, what gets you up in the morning? What's your mission? And looking back, let's say, in 10 years from now, at the end of your, journey in real estate, what do you hope to have accomplished?
First of all, I think what wakes me up every day, it's my family, my children. That's my biggest motivation of all. I have 3 kids, Jerry, who's 12, Santiago, that's 9, and Amelia, that's 6. And, my wife, Roxana, that get me up every day and just want me to, just pushes me to be better every day. That's number one. Um, well, the number two, I think, I'm grateful that I've been surrounded by incredible people. I have great business partners, and I think that I do see a great future. We have a phenomenal team in place that really strives really hard. We have the goal of building our own hotel, and our own brand, and we are in the midst of doing that. So 10 years from now, I want to look back. I want to see all that current team that we have in place that started with us this journey at a really early time where we were just struggling, like an entrepreneur does, paying their bills, and kind of reward them for all of this effort and this sacrifice that they've done with us through this time. And I'm 100% sure it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen, right? It's just a matter of us keeping pushing forward, and building these short-term rentals, continue serving these hotel owners, and putting together all of these minds and all of these people that's backing us up to kind of build what we want to accomplish. So I don't think it's going to be 10 years. I think 10 years we're going to have a portfolio of those properties. But it's the journey that keeps me up and motivated through this process. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, you sound so people-centric, people-focused, and I think any leader that is building others up while they grow is going to succeed.
Thanks, Liam. I hope so.
I'm cheering you on. I would love to hear from you if you could leave our audience with 3 tips that they could take away with them about investment, hospitality, or whatever the topic is that you want to leave them with. What would those 3 things be?
I think the first one is it's no matter, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and so I looked at all kinds of businesses, right? And every time I see a new business, I get pumped about it, and I think to myself, like, that could be a really good business, but it's not, within what I've done and my experience and so forth. And when you look around, you figure that it doesn't matter what you do. If you do it well, if you really try hard, you're going to be successful. You got to trust in that, right? But you just got to be willing to improve every single day, no matter what you do. So it doesn't matter. So I guess back to that, my first point would be, whatever you want to do, doesn't matter what you want to do, just set your goal, put your vision in it, and just start working towards that vision, right? Number 1. Number 2, be resilient, right? Because every journey has its ups and downs. There's Instagram and social media are just posts of, of things that look good in pictures, but the reality is far from there, right? So don't let yourself get clouded through that, because, it's just going to drag you down, right? Everybody goes through bad times. And, I forgot the name of the book that I just read, but it's because it's towards those lines that, you're just willing to take whatever journey you want to be willing to enjoy the challenges that you're going to face through that journey, right? Because everybody will face them. That's a really, really, that's a reality. And so the dream, the resilience, and 3, I would say, surround yourself with people that align with that, right? With your values, with your vision, and understand how important is those partnerships to help you succeed in that dream. So those are my 3, Liat.
Amazing. Amazing. So if our audience wants to connect with you, first of all, tell us who would be the ideal person to connect with, and how they can reach you.
So first of all, I'm happy to help anybody that wants, I just think it's in my nature, and it doesn't matter where you come from or what you do, I would be more than happy to help. But 2, I think in that regard, I would say, hotel owners that are going through tough times, that need help. I think we really strive on aligning our vision to yours, and, help you be successful no matter what your asset is. And, even if it's through crisis, we already live a couple of those, and they're tough. So we have that sympathy that we know what it takes. We've lived it as an owner, and then as a management company. And then any investor, I would say, that wants to align with this vision, we really continue to look for, in a way that allows us to continue grow this vision. And they can get in contact with me through my email. It's at gc@sincerehospitality.com. And I'll be more than happy to jump on a call like this.
Amazing. We'll leave all your information in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me, and looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely, Leah. Thanks so much for the time. I really enjoyed the conversation, and hope to see you again here.
Thank you.